Well, this is my review of Finding Bigfoot from tonight. It was actually the best episode of the season, I thought. Location was Central Oregon in the Willamette Valley. The Mackenzie River footage was examined. Since 1950, there have been over 1,300 sightings in that area. Matt feels that a Sasquatch may have been caught on tape on the Mackenzie footage. The footage stayed dormant for 18 months, eliminating the possibility of a hoax. Renee said it maybe it's misidentification. Matt says it's dark from head to toe and acts like a squatch. The team decides to go whitewater rafting to do a recreation. The two fishermen say it is unlikely that a person would stand in that particular spot. Bobo once again volunteers to be the squatch. Cliff says the water is very cold. It was about 40 degrees. He said if he'd fallen in to that water, he would have had a hard time breathing within a minute. He used a similar camera to the one used to get the footage. The figure seems to be just as big or bigger than Bobo. Renee says it's a human. Matt says it's possibly a squatch. One thing the team agrees on, it is a squatchy area. The team decides to do some night ops in the area. Cliff and Matt are on one team, Renee and Bobo on the other. Cliff does the call this time, with Bobo responding in kind. Renee sees a large blip which doesn't move, but it may be an elk or a deer or a bear. Bobo identifies as an elk. Because of rain and snow, the team decides to call it a night with nothing eventful occurring. In Leeburg, they go to a Bigfoot and beer meeting. By a show of hands, several at the meeting claim to have run across Sasquatch. One person has a cast footprint. The sightings are mapped in the area of the Malala. Mary Carrig is one witness where Matt and Renee go to investigate the area where she saw one walk down a hill across a road. Renee notes it is a story with unsquatch-like behavior. Cliff and Bobo go to another witness location. The two witnesses interviewed by Cliff and Bobo say they heard screams and had rocks thrown at them and saw glowing red eyes. Back to Mary, who said she saw one paralleling her on the road. Matt seems skeptical of the sighting. Cliff and Bobo decide to simulate the glowing eyes situation with two headlamps. Cliff and Bobo find the story credible. Another eyewitness account is investigated where the witnesses put out a rabbit as live bait with glow sticks around. These witnesses saw a large hand as large as the rabbit cage. This team does an experiment to see what they can learn from it with a rabbit in a cage and glow sticks. Something causes the glow sticks under the cage to move, but what? A couple of knocks are heard that are not done by any of the team. The team decides to do some call blasting. Electric motorcycles are utilized. There is one more night of operations and they find, well, I won't spoil it for you. Suffice it to say, I think this was the best episode of the season. 8 out of 10 stars, a B+. Next Sunday, they head to Washington to investigate the Silver Star Mountain Photos, 10 Eastern, 9 Central on Animal Planet. Check local listings for time and channel. This is an article from the Canyon Weekly that I thought I'd read off to you guys. This is from Oregon. Does Bigfoot exist in the NS Canyon? Symposium this weekend to discuss findings. To the many people slated to gather this weekend in the shadows of the Three Sisters off Old Mackenzie Highway, the question isn't if they are, it's who or what they are and how have they survived over 100 years of human encroachment. According to Toby Johnson, the organizer for the Oregon Sasquatch Symposium, they are everywhere, and there is a multitude of believers and witnesses who claim to have had encounters throughout Oregon, including sightings and photos of footprints near Detroit and Bagby Hot Springs. Native Americans agree this isn't a legend, it's a different tribe, a separate species of primate, said Johnson. From a guy who worked for the BEM for 20 years to hunters, loggers, researchers, psychologists, and even Jane Goodall, Bigfoot has a huge following of fans, many of whom report are afraid to be ostracized for their beliefs. Going out on a fragile political limb, former Governor Ted Kalangowski, as a young legislator in the 1970s, introduced a bill to make Sasquatch a protected species, only for it to fail. As a matter of fact, the picking of hard evidence has been pretty slim. Mark Farmer, a longtime big game hunter from Idanha, Idaho is not impressed. If Bigfoot was out there, I would have shot him by now. Now that would be evidence. And they talk about this horrendous smell. That would be bear. These guys are smelling bear. Not so, according to Johnson, who doesn't claim to have ever seen a Bigfoot, but did find a track while hiking with his son one day. These creatures are so elusive, they take advantage of our steep, impenetrable terrain, and their smells and sounds are definitely distinguishable from bears. And as for skeptics, I don't know of one researcher who spent 5 to 6 years studying these beings, then walked away saying it was a hoax. There's just too much compelling evidence. Whether it's campy folklore or scientific fact, the legend of Bigfoot continues. Interested in learning more and mingling with researchers, scientists, and celebrities all celebrating this historical mystery? Go to Oregon Sasquatch Symposium.com to sign up. Ever had an encounter? We'd like to hear about it. Write editor at thecanyonweekly.com. We promise to keep your info confidential.